the squeakiest chair on the planet. Hey friends, it's your good friend Tim Campbell-Smith, and today I am walking you through how to start a freelance photography business in the province of Ontario. You definitely can take these steps if you're in other parts of Canada, the US, or through the world, but my specific tactical steps are going to be specific to the province of Ontario. Before I launched into photography, I was, and at the time of recording, I'm still doing digital marketing. So I know business development, I know how to start a business, run a business, and this feels like a really solid second kick at the can when it comes to building a business. So I'm going to pass on all of my knowledge and wisdom to you when it comes to actually starting the business. What does it actually take to start a photography business, and specific in the province of Ontario? You have to leave this video in the next 60 seconds. Basically, here's the 9 things you have to do. You have to decide what you're going to offer, pick a name, or if you're going to go with a name. You have to register your business with the province of Ontario or with a government body. You have to open a business bank account. You have to create your real estate, as I call it. So that's like your website, your social media. Figure out how to and set up the ways that you will accept methods of payment, make some decisions about insurance, establish contracts or legally binding forms of work, and finally, tell everyone that you're in business and actually go sell your services. Now that's the bare bones, but if you want explanations and some tips and wisdom, that's what you stick around for. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for all things photography, business, mental health, school, and life. Now, while I've technically walked you through just those base parts of what it actually takes, let's explain each one just a little bit further. The first step is to decide what are you even going to offer. And this goes one of 2 ways. You have to decide what kind of services you're going to offer. So for example, are you doing portraits? Are you offering weddings? Are you doing mini sessions? Are you doing newborn photography? What types of photography are you going to do? This other part of that you'll have to figure out is how are you going to price those services? So that's not only setting the price, that's deciding how you're going to price it. Because in photography, there's a bunch of different ways that we price things, right? So your fee could be just shooting and not include any of the images. And then if it does include images, how many does it include? Does it include raw? Which most photographers agree do not sell the raw images. Will there be upcharges? For what? Is it for additional photos? Are you offering prints? This comes down to the structure of how you price out those services, and we've got to decide that early, because that affects everything else in the business. I want you to decide what you're going to offer. What are the actual services, and then how are you going to price them? Look around to see how other photographers are pricing it. Photographers, I say that there's a pretty healthy mix of them disclosing their pricing. So take a look at the photographers who are disclosing their pricing on their websites and figure out basically what do you love doing and how do you want to get paid for it. Pick a name. This is where the digital marketer in me comes out, because picking a name on one hand should be relatively straightforward, and on the other hand can be a very deep and thoughtful process. So generally, let me simplify by giving you, again, one of 2 routes. You can do it under your own name. I know my photography business name that's registered is TCSPS. And I just go by the acronym, but that actually just stands for Tim Campbell-Smith Photography Services. I've kind of just gone under my own name. The other way you can do it, though, is you can give it a creative name. There's lots of different ways to come up with creative names. One formula I gave my clients as a digital marketer, and it was a great springboard, was I got them to write out words on sticky notes or cue cards, and to just combine words so that a name was usually 2 words, could be 3, and a combination thereof. And it's really easy if one of those words you choose involves something like photography or media. But I will say avoid anything frankly generic, which is usually a feel-good adjective or descriptor. So avoiding things like sanctuary media or beautiful moments photography, because those are kind of generic. Play with your word combinations. Get a thesaurus, look up all different variations of words that you kind of want to be associated with in your business, and play with that. Next, to legally do business in the province of Ontario, you've got to register the business. So in Ontario, we have a pretty simple online portal. Most government agencies tend to also have a portal. So go to your portal and look at how to register there. The big thing that they're asking you when you register the business is what kind of business structure do you want? Like sole proprietorship, corporation, partnership, co-op, or other they're legally protected titles dependent on your state or province. Most photographers in the province of Ontario will register as a sole proprietorship. It's easiest to move from sole proprietor to corporation than it is usually to go corporation to sole proprietor. Makes sense when you're a sole practitioner. Also, because most people starting out aren't making huge amounts of money, there's a lot of tax implications when it comes to registering your business. So sole proprietorship tends to be easiest. But in this case, I want to say I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant. Go speak with a lawyer or an accountant about the legal and accounting structure of the business. Get that second opinion just in case. Next, we would need to open a business bank account. Now, this is where it kind of gets funny, and I'm going to tailor this advice to folks in Ontario. There's some advice in here, if you're not in Ontario, that will work for you, but still, open a business bank account. Practice number one is to have a separate bank account for the business. It will make doing your taxes at the end of the year so much easier, because the province, yes, will want to see tax information and revenue information for the business, and you'd have to find a way to like separate the business from personal if you put it all into one account. But if you have it in separate accounts, you have a business bank account just for the business, makes everything way more simple and straightforward. A couple things to know though with opening this account. If you are opening it in your own name, I believe technically you can get away with opening a personal banking account. The fees are a little less. There's less kind of restrictions on the account for most banks and for most of the big 5 banks. But if you've opened your business in a business name that's not your own legal name, then you have to open a business bank account. But to do that, you need the business license. That's why you have to get the business license first and register with the province. Now, also a quick note on these technicalities, these legalities with opening a bank account and the government. In Ontario, we have HST, Harmonized Sales Tax. This is, I believe, 13%. I really should know that. You do not have to register for HST right away. You have to be collecting and remitting HST to the government if you make $30,000 or more per year. But if you don't think in your first year you're going to make $30,000, you don't have to. Some people like to, when they start their business, register and get HST right away because it kind of legitimizes the business and makes it look more legit, but this is totally up to you. But the overall theme, or what I'm trying to say here, is that by default, you do not have to sign up for HST. The next thing you have to do in starting your photography business is create the real estate for it. Now, I've always compared digital marketing assets to real estate. So like your website is like the home that you own. Social media is like renting, but you have to create that up and you have to market and advertise your business somehow. So this is it might include creating like a website, updating your social media channels or creating social media channels, getting business cards, anything that helps get your name out there. Next, figure out how you're gonna take money. How are you gonna make money? This surprisingly has a lot of decisions to be involved. In Canada, are you going to take e-transfer? Will you take checks? If you want to take credit cards, who's your payment processor going to be? You can go with a credit card payment processor, or you can go with a platform that offers it as part of other services, like where people can book their consults so they can see galleries. Then if you're accepting credit cards, because of new laws in Ontario and Canada, are you going to pass on the whole credit card fee, some of the credit card fees? Are you going to absorb that as a cost of doing business? Ultimately, what you have to do here is decide how do you want to get paid and set it up so that you can receive payment that way. The big thing, though, is to look into payment processors who will allow you to accept credit cards, and most of them have pretty competitive rates. Next, decide on insurance. I'm gonna bet that if you're going into photography, you have a lot of gear, or you have gear that is expensive, or is a combination of the two. What happens if something goes wrong with your gear? It breaks, it falls, it gets into water, someone steals it. Insurance can help with this. I want to say this. If there's anything I've learned in business, it's that when you are looking for insurance, go to an insurance broker who is working with many different companies. I'm very hesitant of insurance agents who only work with one company and only sell one line of insurance, like who only do, for example, cooperators or only do Desjardins or whatever they're called these days. I think it's best to work with a broker who can get you access to insurance products across many different companies. And that's what I'll say about that. Next, let's talk about contracts. Contracts are extremely important. Let me say, here's a few just general rules that I learned with contracts. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but lawyers did teach me these phrases. 1, the first person to hand over a contract wins. Contracts are often designed to benefit the person who gives the contract. So, be the first one with a contract. The second thing I learned, contracts are not designed for good times or the start of relationships. They are designed for the end or when things go wrong. So, you might feel weird, you might feel nervous trying to hand over a contract. Do it. It protects the relationship. A contract will spell out in completely clear, with no uncertain terms, how the relationship will work. And some clauses that you might think about having in your contract include logistics of the shoot, location, time, place, number of people involved, fee, what that fee gets you and does not get you. Output deliverables, like the number of images, the number of edited images, does it include raw, those kind of things. Payment schedule and payment details. Is there a deposit? Is there a final fee? Is there an installment fee? Next, and this is probably the most important one, and after watching this video, I expect all of you to put this in your contracts. An artistic style clause. A clause that says, the client has had the opportunity to review a body of your work and is familiar and understands your style.
Actually, maybe don't use the word understand. As a teacher, I know that that's not something you can really assess, but
the idea is that someone has seen your body of work before signing up with you. This is to prevent them getting the final images and going, this is not what I wanted. Contracts will also include governing laws. So what laws are you going to be following? So here in Ontario, we'd say like, this contract is bound by the laws of the province of Ontario. Responsibilities of both parties. Like, what happens if your client cancels last second? What happens if you cancel last second? Liability. And finally, rights, licensing, and use. Rights, licensing, and use is used more in photography involving businesses, so products, business portraits, commercial, architectural photography. The discussion of legal contracts, I want to round out with this. There are so many free templates available online. They're a great start. I still highly recommend that you go and get your contract reviewed by a legal professional. Even if you're only paying them for, I don't know, like up to an hour just to review what you have, still have a lawyer look it over. And the final step, and this is probably the most important one that most photographers struggle with, you actually have to tell people that you're in business. Go sell your services. A lot of folks struggle with this. They kind of decide like they're going into business for themselves. They're going to be a photographer. They hang up their shingle and they expect the masses to come to them. That's not how that works. You have to post about your services. You have to offer them. You have to talk to people. You have to build relationships. Go build the business. Sell your services. And this is what it takes to start a photography business, specifically in Ontario. You've got to decide what you're going to offer, how are you going to offer it, register that business with the province or with a government body, get your bank account, create the real estate, figure out how are you going to take payments, how are you going to get paid and make that coin. You're going to make some decisions about insurance, what you're going to insure, how much you're going to insure it for. You're going to decide on your contracts, and then you're going to start selling. Photography is so exciting, and I think it's a really accessible art medium, so I can't wait to see what you come up with, what other new photographers come up with, because I think there's space for everybody. Comment and let me know, where are you at on your photography journey? As always, make sure you like and subscribe for all things photography, business, school, mental health, and life. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye for now.